I watched this. At first I thought it was a romantic comedy until I realized it's much more serious than any rom-com I've ever seen. I mean, it had some frivolous parts, but mostly serious. Um, yeah, so it's called. Um, yeah, it's a bit. The title isn't actually said out loud, so it's not very familiar. But our meal for tomorrow. I mean, the title is really, I'm assuming, a reference to what happens, but it's not actually referenced explicitly. Um, it does have a lot of meals, though, so that's that. But it's not about meals. It just isn't. So no, there's a lot of things that one could uh, be misled about. That I mean, it's just my mistake to mistake it for a rom-com. It really is not. It's just a purely romantic, I guess, movie. But then um, I don't know. It's a lot of things, and I didn't expect a lot of things to turn out how they did. Uh, not most romantic movies turn out like this. If they did, I wouldn't watch any at all. I mean, I don't like to watch many in the first place, but I mean, I don't know. This kind of topic, shall we say, is a painful one to watch on screen, I suppose. I mean, when one says that movies are an escapist mode, some people even say it's entertainment, and you know it doesn't apply to a lot of movies. To be honest, I cannot believe some people can even utter that word in relation to some movies. In relation to war, etc. It's just not. Unless, of course, it has some sort of comedy as well, in which case, sure, it might be entertainment to some extent. Um, but I don't know. This one sort of was up until a point. Then it became pathos filled. I mean, to be fair, it could have been predicted. Just a bit from the beginning as well, considering he went on about his brother and such. So yeah, uh, in this sense, they sort of formed a reflective sort of part in the latter half of the movie. There were a lot of things that reflected on each other, actually. Like when the two girls gave him a hug, and he so happens to have oily hands from the eating. It just so happens to be, the same food, etc. Well, obviously, he had told her before that he had eaten that one, so she just tried it. Ah, yeah, the second girl is pitiful, so he shouldn't really have even tried at all if he really wasn't there mentally. It's not fair, really, on her. But yeah, at various points I thought this was unfair on him as well. Ironically, like at the beginning, even when she didn't want to listen to him. But suddenly I realized why at the end, at least. I couldn't tell until the end, but I'm assuming she just didn't want to hear about her own reality. So that is, yeah. Then there was also the obviously the bit in the restaurant where she just abruptly said that she wants to break up. Yeah, that was one of the most abrupt breakups I've ever seen or could imagine. Said so casually. The reaction was quite sort of natural as well. I'm assuming it's scripted, but it was sort of a natural reaction. I mean, he was just stunned. Um, even then, though, I mean, one might say, one might think it's unnatural, and even later on, I'm not sure if she outright lied, but when she sort of blamed her grandma, because her granny didn't actually say anything, but explicitly on the camera it is, but she said that she told her. But then we find out that that might not be the real reason after all. So it's a complex movie in a way. I mean, it's much way more complex than any rom-com really. It does have some elements though, which I guess is always better. Just having straight. I guess one could say romance sometimes could be painful, but obviously the most amazing bit in this film, in my opinion, I think in many people's opinions, would be. I mean, it was somewhat of a advert, I suppose. I think they're a sponsor. I saw the logo there at the end. A lot of sponsors actually. At the end there, I saw in the credits. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's still a great scene. I'm going to say, even if it's explicitly promotional. The bit where he just stole the statue, just ran with it. Um, there aren't many movies that make me feel two strong emotions at once. But yeah, this one did, like almost at the same time. It's quite something. I could feel the pathos initially, and then suddenly just I couldn't stop laughing. Everyone looking at this guy running with a statue, like how is it even possible? How? I mean, that must be at least 20 kilos. How could you run with it? It's quite hefty and quite bulky. Yeah. The, the only other time I remember having this sort of conflicted response is in the uh, Yakuza and HK anime. At the end, yeah. I don't quite remember why I was laughing. I think I might remember why I was. Uh, anyway, yeah, it's not about that now. But this was quite interesting, and yeah, it doesn't still quite transcend them. I don't know what it is. Maybe simply because I didn't choose it because I mean I didn't know a lot of I try not to know when I watch movies. I think it's better that way. But sometimes you just end up on these ones that are unfortunate in this sense. Yeah. But as far as romantic movies go, I still somehow didn't. I didn't think it was as wholesome. Let's just say wholesome, maybe. I mean, it is fairly wholesome, but just a slight bit less than others. Like that, I also commented on a political romance. I quite like that. I also quite liked Spellbound, as I often say, but that has the horror genre added in, so not quite. To be fair, I mean this might not be explicitly horror, but I consider this topic to be a quintessential horror. To be honest, not the romantic topic, obviously. That other one, that she was afflicted with at the end. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if it takes something out of that wholesome feeling. Somehow it seems like it does. It's unfortunate, but I don't know. Kind of like in comparison, in a political romance was about. I mean, somewhat similar. I mean, in most movies, actually, we hear what people have to say about their past, etc. This happened here as well. What happened in a political romance is that we heard about other people as well, just random strangers, which was kind of a nice thing in itself, and there was quite a lot of pathos in some scenes as well. But there wasn't anything. There was like this heavy weight. Uh, I mean, it was explicitly a rom-com, I guess one could say. It's honestly, I think it's one of the best rom-coms I've seen. But yeah, so I mean, there wasn't something heavy. I suppose that there usually isn't in rom-coms. as far as the romance by itself goes, this was much heavier. Which isn't to say, it's worse. It's just I, I yeah I don't feel like it's usually as thoroughly able to be seeped in. I guess I'm not sure how to word it. Like I did with a political romance, or even Spellbound. Um, but that was comedic as well, along with uh, comedic horror essentially. Maybe you can't really call it a horror to be fair. Just comedic horror. So but I still very much. I mean, I still. It's not like I didn't feel anything at all. I what a movie does. The very fact that a movie is supposed to literally move the audience. That sure happens. Happens, and I mean, certainly better than most I've seen recently, which were rather humdrum. Um, um, and so they're directly comparable, but like the one I commented on last, about that sports rivalry. Um, that certainly didn't elicit as much from me as this did. But then these sort of topics sort of do by nature, don't they? So it's almost natural for this to happen. Not so much natural for one to just feel so powerfully about a sports rivalry, especially if one doesn't know anything about it, or even care much about the sport, or I don't know. There's a lot of things I analyzed in that commentary, and with this, on the other hand, it's much more universal, isn't it? It's much more. I mean, romance is universal generally, and how these things happen. Everyone went through the school system as well, even though it's located in a different country. It's still most people can still relate to it. Yeah? I mean, I didn't personally try that jumping sect thing, but I still liked the way it progressed. But overall, as I said, though, as a the whole of the movie itself, the whole is quite multi-layered and well done. Yeah, in my opinion, it just was heavy. Like some horrors are heavy actually, and even with horrors, I'm not able to just really, really, really enjoy them so much. I enjoyed Spellbound only because it was tapered by other things. If it just had horror, then probably wouldn't. That saying that, I did watch what was it called again? A variation on the Mynak story. It didn't have any comedy. It was fairly gruesome at first, but the way it ended was quite wholesome in a way, one could say. It is still a horror, but it still elicited quite a lot. As, as much as horror can do, at least, So, not quite as much as Spellbound. But Spellbound had comedy as well, so naturally it just adds more to the mixture. It's like a spice, an extra spice, an extra ingredient. But this was just heavy, In comparison, a political romance was just light as a feather. But then that's what you get with rom-coms. Many rom-coms, of course, can be mindless. So it's not like, one necessarily wants a film to be light as a feather. Not too light, at least, I mean, yeah, a political romance is as light as a feather. Maybe, just adequately light as a feather. Not, so light that, it's practically the equivalent of just I don't know what's even lighter. Anyway, yeah, some movies are really, really empty, and I've seen quite a lot of those these days. like I kind of went the other way around. So obviously I didn't deliberately do this, but it just so happened, and it's just heavy. But I still very much appreciate it. So I mean, it was still in some moments funny, in some moments it had heart, and I the granny herself, for example, I mean, she doesn't exactly have many scenes, but at the end, that one scene where she just simply tells him, "Take care of her," you could see how heartfelt that was. So no one knows in the end if she really did tell her that she needed a son. I think she said. Uh, she might have invented that, but in the end, the granny accepts him. Um, Also, she didn't quite look like granny, did she? Though she looked younger somehow. She didn't seem to have a single grey hair. Anyway, yeah. So the friendship he also had with that workmate of his, it wasn't very long either. Obviously, only the two protagonists had the most screen time. But even as much as you know, as much as they had, those two with their friendship was quite. I suppose one could say satisfying. What happened? Not much happened, But he encouraged him sufficiently, I suppose. I mean, sure enough, he also encouraged him to find someone else, and maybe it would have been better not to, because then this other person, obviously must have been horrible for her, and he he, he hadn't known the truth at the point, so I suppose if he did, then his mind would have been even more focused actually. But yeah, there were a lot of these moments that I forgot the word, but this I think it's a Japanese thing maybe, or maybe Asian thing in general, where this quality of transience is depicted. I think there's a certain word for it. I forgot though. I think there was a lot of that. Sort of like our little sister had. Uh, in fact, I think I should watch more of the director's films. Except even our little sister was quite heavy as well. But didn't exactly touch on these specific topics and went too deep like this one did, but still had a lot of funerals, like for a little film, quite a lot. I still liked it, but I mean, that's the thing, when something is heavy, it's just a bit difficult to really thoroughly. I guess I'm not sure if there's an alternative word to like. It's not so much like. It's more about sort of like experiencing their life, experiencing another potential life. It's not about liking. I mean, this isn't a pure comedy. The both of these weren't pure comedies. But it's not about liking as such. It's not about. I mean, sure, as I said, it had comedic moments, but not wholly. It wasn't wholly comedic. Otherwise, though, you know, I still feel like there's something that one can take from these sort of films. Just that, in a way, it was also, I mean, it reminded me of, except, there weren't any instruments, reminded me of The Lie in April, you know? It was quite similar, in a way. There was also a lie, I suppose one would say, and yeah, as it happens, apparently she also mentioned months, didn't she? And I think, did she say she was born in April? It's quite a coincidence then. I think she did. I'm not sure if maybe it's another month and I'm just conflating it, but yeah. And she also mentioned August, I think. As it happens, I'm watching this in August, but never mind, that's just some random coincidence. But yeah, it's similar to The Lie in April. I mean, yeah. It's one of those things, though, isn't it? That sort of proclaim that the present is what really matters, really, ultimately.